Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jenna Quinn, and it's my pleasure as the Assistant Director of Alumni and Affinity Engagement to welcome you all to this edition of the 49er Industry Chat Series. Just so everyone is aware, this session is recorded, so really what that means for you is that it will be available for you on demand on our website at www.csulb.edu/alumni. So you can feel free to watch it again, share it with a friend or a colleague, a peer, pretty much anyone you think might get something good from it. And so with that, I'm happy to introduce our speaker today, Andrew Jackson. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So let me just read your bio a little bit, so that way, well, I'll read your whole bio, but so that way folks can get to know a little bit about you.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so Andrew graduated in 2014 and immediately started working for Hurwitz Creative, a large-scale vendor for television and movie studios, and eventually moved on to Trailer Park. He's now currently at Warner Brothers Pictures. He's worked on theatrical marketing campaigns for big picture projects like the Hunger Games franchise, and most recently, the Dune franchise, The Color Purple, and Barbie. He is the head of social media and content for actor-comedian Martin Lawrence, and he is currently working on content for Bad Boys 4. In his free time, he enjoys training in jujitsu and spending time with his wife, who's also in the industry, and their daughter. Thanks so much for joining us today, Andrew. I'm so excited for this one.
Yeah, me too. It'd be fun to kind of look back for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, taking a look back, let's start, let's start off with a little bit of background about you. Can you tell us a little bit about your life and your experiences and kind of what led you to come to CSULB in the first place?
Yeah, I'm originally from San Diego, here in California. Very simplistic upbringing, just me and my mom and my grandmother. And I would say everything pretty much started in eighth grade when I was in middle school. And I was in a drama class. Funny enough, anybody who knows me knows I am super shy in front of people. I'm not a public speaker. Um, so one day in this class, our teacher was sick and decided to show us a movie instead, and it ended up being The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock. And funny enough, I think I was the only one watching it, but I literally till this day can remember the feeling I walked out saying, "That's what I want to do. I want to be in entertainment, make movies, or just be involved in entertainment somehow." And I went straight home and called my mom, who was at work, and I was like, "I know what I want to do." And since then, that was literally my goal in life. So from then on, I studied as much as I could. I learned how to edit using two VCRs at the time, which dates me. Um, I
For sure, for sure.
read as much as I could, watched everything as much as I could, and my mom helped me doing that too. She's always been a huge support system, and that to the point where she ended up moving me up to LA when I was in high school, so I could finish my last 2 years in Hollywood and just be surrounded by the environment and the industry. Um, and when it came time to school, I ended up applying to a lot of the bigger schools like USC, UCLA, and all that stuff, as well as Cal State Long Beach. And funny enough, when I visited the Long Beach campus, which is actually my very last stop as far as turning in portfolios, I left with such a great feeling because of the environment and the people that I ended up not even opening up my letters for some of the schools I applied for because I was like, I'm gonna go there. Like I already know it. Like it was that good. Um, and sure enough, I got in, and the rest is history. Ended up just going to class and went to the FEA program. Um, yeah, it's all
No,
school.
that's incredible. That's incredible that you kind of got that, you were able to get that feeling and that vibe from just, visiting campus and taking a look at the department. And I think it speaks a lot to the folks that we have here and the program that we have here. So that's incredibly great to hear. But in that, like once you got here and once you were here and you were part of that, can you tell me a little bit about what your student experience is like. You know, were there
Yeah,
any clubs or activities or professors or anything that had a great impact on you?
yeah, I'd say, and you mentioned professors, I'd say that one person who stood out a lot was Jack Tucker, who I know is still teaching in the FBA program. At the time, he was still teaching editing and post-production. And I would say he had such a big impact because he was so real. He wouldn't sugarcoat anything. I mean, he's worked in the industry a lot of years, decades, and he would always say like it's not an easy business. It really isn't. And he would tell us, look at people around you because most of them you'll never see again because they won't actually succeed. And it sounds harsh, but I think that um, entertainment is a harsh business, like many other industries, and I think we need people like that to say, "Hey, unless you truly put everything you have into it, you're not gonna make it." And that's exactly what I needed to hear because, I mean, I guarantee within my industry, if you're not at the top of your game, there's somebody behind you who is that's waiting to take your spot. So I took that really to heart when he told me that. As far as my overall experience, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I have quite a few friends there who I still know to this day, who I'm seeing this weekend because we just became so close and we continue to work with each other too. So, um, I mean, hanging out with them, and at the end of the day, I was in a film program, so we watched a lot of movies there. But besides that, yeah, I didn't really do any of the clubs or extra activities because so often I was working. Like I would leave campus and I would do homework and all that stuff. And then it was around that time that I started working for Martin, and I would go and film him at a comedy club, or I would go travel on his tour. So it was a lot of work during those years.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, did you have, how did you find strategies to be able to juggle all of that? I mean, that's a lot to take on at once and so
Yeah,
young.
it was a lot. One thing that helped was initially I basically before I actually went to school, I'd saved up for a couple of years of just working to the point where I could quit a basic 9 to 5 job and dedicate everything I had to school. And so I was able to kind of give me a lot more time to dedicate to it. When it came to adding Martin's projects onto my plate, um, it basically I just didn't sleep. I mean, I would go to school Monday through Friday, and I would usually travel on red eyes on Friday night, uh, do his stuff on the weekends, fly back on Sunday, and then go right back to school on Monday. Um, and that was in between our film projects that we had to do, our editing projects. So yeah, just no sleep.
Yeah, I can't imagine you got much. Um, I think that for a lot of folks especially students who are currently in the program, right? They wonder how best to make those types of connections, right? How to find the internships with people or just jobs with people who are in the industry like Martin.
Yeah. There's a couple different ways. I mean, especially if you're still in school, I would say take advantage of the internship program, which I did do my last semester. Um, and I ended up interning at Paramount Studios on a television show called The Doctors, which is an Emmy award-winning show. Um, that alone is what allowed me to get my foot in the door for my very first job at Hurwitz. My boss at the time, who is still my friend, said that she actually gave me the interview because of my resume looking pretty impressive. Even though I had one solid piece on there, which was that internship, it was a show with enough kind of notoriety to get me in the door because I figured, okay, well, he was on this, he got through, we'll give him a shot. So that's a huge thing is take advantage of the programs that you would have on campus. I would say also, I know a lot of people mention networking, and I absolutely believe in that, especially in school, because a lot of the people that you're going through your programs with are the people that are going to move on and can help you in your future. I would say with that, one thing that's been very key to me is I like to make friends, not network.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, I feel like it's very disingenuous to make a friendship just for the sake of, oh, you can help me in the future. So I've found that I get to know people, and if we become friends, great. And if they want to recommend me for something or I recommend them, then that's fantastic. If not, I got a friendship out of it. And I feel like that's given me the best success, to the point where at this point I have enough friends where if I needed to, I could lose my job today and be working in 2 days. Just because I have good friends, not necessarily just because I have people and their emails or their phone numbers are added on LinkedIn. So I'd say just make your friends and be willing to help each other.
Yeah. I mean, do you have some of the relationships that you made while you were on campus? I mean, do any of those continue to exist today that help you? And what does that look like for you?
Yeah, one, and he's super shy, so he's probably not gonna like this if he does see it. His name is Philip. Um, he and I had a class together. Actually, we went through most of the program. We had most of our classes together. It was really weird, even though we didn't plan it that way. He is somebody who, when I got a job at Hurwitz, about a month or two into it, we needed another assistant editor, and I had recommended him, as well as another one of our friends, Juan. And they both interviewed same day. It just turns out that Philip got the job. And literally, as we moved up, we've helped each other get into the same companies as each other. So at this point, we've now worked with each other 3 out of the 4 jobs, I think. So in fact, I'm still working with him even today. So yeah, it's very long lasting friendship. That's definitely helped as far as jobs. And there's been other people who I've met, just working, that I've found out that have gone to Long Beach, and we've had the connections through there, and just have said, if you ever need help, just let me know. So there's definitely the network there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's great advice, for this for students that are in the program right now. Look to your left, look to your right. Most of you won't see each other again, but some people,
Yeah,
some
yeah,
people are your people, right?
yeah, absolutely. And the ones that are, you'll see it through until the very end.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, so I mean, you've already told us like y- the you knew that this is what you wanted to do, right? From eighth grade, you knew that this was what you wanted to do. And so, in that sense, right, you kind of set that course and you went for it. But as far as like navigating your time throughout your career, from Hurwitz Creative to Trailer Park and on to Warner Brothers and everything else that you're involved in, how have you been able to figure out when it is that you need to move on or make that next leap? And when that is the case, has it been very intentional of making those moves, or is it something where it's more opportunity based?
It's definitely been opportunity based, and funny enough, each time I was never seeking out to do it to move on. I think especially from the first leap from Hurwitz Creative to Trailer Park. A Trailer Park, just a little backstory, is a huge trailer house here in Hollywood. I mean, they make most of the trailers for most of the studios. So I had even tried to intern there, and I got passed on. When they actually, funny enough, reached out on LinkedIn, and a random, for which I admit I don't really ever use, but they reached out with a cold call saying, "Hey, we like your resume. Would you be willing to talk to us?" And of course, I flipped out, and I was super excited and took the call. And it turns out that they offered me a deal that I felt would better my career. Not even just about money. In fact, I pay is great when you get more, but I've never taken a job based on just pay. Each job I've taken, in fact, this goes back to school. Each class I took somehow helped me with my career. Even if I had to take, I mean, I took art history for a year and a half, and I had found points that could help me in my career. Same thing with this. When I moved from job to job, I found reasons that I felt could boost me and my value to the next company. So with this, I found that I could get exposure to larger projects, or studio projects, larger overall company. Um, I could have the opportunity to learn from higher end editors and producers. So I made that jump and didn't look back. And I still continue to do the same thing. That's kind of the same reason why I went to Warner Brothers. Even though I was at a large scale company, in this business, you're not getting any larger than a movie studio, especially with one as historically relevant as Warner Brothers. So that's why I left there, because it's just, again, more opportunities to grow for myself
Yeah.
and the money.
So definitely growth oriented, whether that be personal growth or monetarily, but personal growth.
Yeah, yeah, because at the end of the day, it's like, I mean, they could offer you a six-figure salary, but I mean, do you want to be happy or not? And that's, for me, just being happy is worth more than the money.
No, for sure. Well, so the you've worked on many projects, and I know that the ones that I listed out at the start of this chat are just a small, like, little sampling of some of the bigger titles, or the bigger name things that, or even just the most recent things. But I think that, with with these huge projects, right? Or with these really well-known projects, or even just projects in general, right? It's one of those things where folks are like, okay, so you're working on these projects, but what does that exactly mean, right? So as you've had all these different positions, like, what did a typical day look like for you? What does a typical day in your position, in your job, look like now?
Yeah, so because I kind of have two different sides of it with Warner Brothers, specifically, I work in theatrical marketing, meaning our department does like movie trailers or what we call TV spots. So not the full trailer, but the little 30-second piece that you'll see in between a television show, or even during. And so what they'll do is that they'll send me an email saying, hey, let's say Godzilla and Kong. We need a small social media piece for this. This is the part of the movie that we want to use. This is what the intention is. Make that happen. And here's the deadline, and it's usually end of day. So I'll go through and I'll just start. I mean, I work with a producer who's a very good friend of mine. So we have very really fun dynamic. She just kind of leads me to just do what I need, and so I'll get that done. And just it's the same thing over and over every movie. It's kind of almost like a template in a way to me. It's all movies kind of get marketed similarly, uh, and yeah, same thing. As far as Martin stuff, I think that's a little bit more involved because I do run his accounts, all his social accounts, as well as creating content. I'm constantly, from the moment I wake up, I'm checking what's trending. I get all alerts, Google alerts with his name. So if his name is mentioned in anything, I'm seeing it, and I'm checking it out for accuracy. I'm checking it out to make sure that the brand is still being seen in a positive light. I'm responding to comments. I'm coming up with ideas on how we can push his brand and promote upcoming projects, and try to make sure that his overall presence on social media is still large, because at the end of the day, that's, even though he's had a 30-plus year career, and came up and made his name in a time where there was no social media. That is the time we live in now. So I just want to make sure that he's moving up there with the times, especially with as recent as Bad Boys 4. I mean, that's such a large thing that we really want to make sure that we do a good job on it.
For sure. Do you have a favorite project you've ever worked on? Or at least maybe is there a type of project that tends to be your favorite?
Uh, I know I've had quite a few. I would say one that stands out instantly is Martin's comedy film called Doing Time. Um, and I would say it's is probably my favorite because that was the one where I was given the opportunity for the very first time to edit the kind of mini documentary that plays before he comes out on stage. Um, so getting to do that, I mean, it was something that I essentially created that was playing in front of 16 to 20,000 people per night for an entire like 40 city run. It then got used on his DVD, so which is streaming on Amazon and a bunch of other places. So I can go on Amazon and see a piece that I created from scratch and spent months on working, um, actually out there in the public. And I think especially when you're in entertainment or film or TV, like I mean, seeing your stuff out there is kind of the goal. And so that was something that I got to reach.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And you know, plug away, everyone. Go right now. Go stream
Yeah,
Amazon.
yeah.
Go take a look. Um, yeah, no, that's great. I am curious though, you know, your position with Warner Brothers currently, your position doing a social media content for Martin. These are not part-time gigs here. Right? Like these are two huge, huge things. So, you know, I'm curious, you know, are you still like when you were in college, you know, taking that red eye and never sleeping? Like, how do you balance work and life? And, you know, what does that look like for you in this industry?
Yeah, it's I think I mean there's so much time management. Like I mean, especially having our daughter, like in some way or another, I'm working 24/7. Um, Luckily, not everything is just piling on all at one point. For the most part, both sides um, are kind of at my leisure. Like with the Warner Brothers stuff, they'll send something in unless there's a hard due date. Most of the time, things are due end of day or the next morning or the following week. So I kind of have time to space that out. And I mean, I'm pretty good at my job, so I can usually get things done pretty quickly. Um, so that's it's not that bad. As far as Martin stuff, they also give me the complete freedom, and they're so good about just saying, "Hey, we trust you, you do you." So it's the type of thing where if I need to bring something to their attention, I'll bring it for them to watch. But for the most part, I can choose what I do and when I do it, which is almost kind of a unicorn job. But again, I mean, I've been with them 10 plus years at this point, so I've built up the trust for them to know that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, and know that the ideas that I come up with are going to make sense for his brand. Um, and just kind of help push things forward. Um, but then in between, like I said, I have our daughter, so um, anytime that I'm not spent working, I'm usually playing with her because at the end of the day, I don't want her to be raised thinking, "Oh, I can't go to him or uh, my wife because they're working." Like she has free reign to just run in here. And at the end of the day, I always tell people we're not curing the next disease. We are working in entertainment. Things can wait. Nothing is that important where you can't just stop and take a second, play with your child. So I do that a lot. Um, I know you mentioned red eyes. I do that a lot. In fact, I had went to Miami recently for Bad Boys 4, and I finished working at 8 o'clock. I was on a plane by 11 at night, arrived in Miami at 5:30. I was on set by 7, didn't go to sleep until 2 a.m., back on set by 5, and did that until Monday morning when I flew back, a very early flight, and was back working for Warner Bros. By 9. So that can be what it's like for me when it comes to traveling and just staying on top of it. I mean, you got to do what you got to do at the end of the day. But like I said, I'm doing what I've wanted to do since 8th grade, so it's tough, but I can't complain
Yeah.
much because I do complain. But um,
Yeah, I think I think I might complain a little bit too. Definitely understandable. But your wife, she's also in the industry, right? So, you know, is that ever difficult to balance out? Or have you guys found like a good group?
we definitely have to find a. I think we a good groove. She may not always agree with the always, but yeah, I mean, she's a producer over at Disney, and she's in their TV marketing. So she produces and writes like a lot of commercials for ABC. And so it's kind of nice in the sense that she's in the same area that I am, so she gets it. Um, if there's plenty of Valentines and birthdays and all that that we've had to cancel, or move, or just get done in 10, 20 minutes, just because we are so busy. But having somebody who does the same thing, it helps tremendously. Um, it takes a lot of the stress because she's so supportive, in saying, "Hey, I know what it's like. Just get it done." As far as finding a groove, um, yeah, I think we've done a pretty good job. Even right now, like she's on a meeting with her, and I could hear Moana playing in the background. So I think she's kind of balancing that too, and we do the same thing. I mean, my producers and stuff know my daughter, so I mean, I could be on a video chat and have her in my lap and playing with her too. So yeah, we found a really good kind of groove here at home.
Well, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I'm kind of hoping for a guest star from her, from your daughter.
Who knows? Maybe.
So I have kind of a two-parter question here. And so I'll start with the first part, which is what's the most challenging part of your job? I mean, I know you may have already kind of addressed that, but from your perspective, what's the most challenging part of your job?
Uh,
Or jobs?
that's actually a really great question. I feel like there's multiple things, like um, wanting to make sure that you get enough time for yourself, not necessarily alone, but time away from work. Um, I think if you love what you're doing, it's almost like you don't want to pull yourself away, or at least it's hard. And I find myself in that mode a lot. Um, but sometimes just learning when to just turn the switch off. Um, and I think I've been practicing the last year, to try to do that. So if I say I'm off, I'm off. Like I'm not looking at my emails. I'll take my Apple Watch off, and I don't want to look at notifications. Like just turn it off. Um, so that's one of the hardest parts that I found, at least.
Well, then on the flip side then, what is the most rewarding part of your job?
Uh, Recently, I would say doing things that get put out publicly, that my daughter can look at when she's 60 years old, or and I'm long gone, that can say like, "Hey, my dad did that," or "My mom did that." That wasn't always the case. Like I didn't always think about that, but as of now, that's kind of where my head's at. Like that's really cool to know that the whole world may not be looking at it, but part of us can live on with her, even if we're not around. So.
Yeah, I mean, what is that? What certain projects are you particularly interested for her to enjoy?
A lot of the comedy stuff with Martin, I mean, with him, I have the ability to come up with content and produce it and direct it and edit it. So, I mean, if she's watching a lot of these pieces, she's knowing that I'm the one who did that. Like I am up there directing this icon of a comedian and actor, um, and know that that's me that went into it. Those are the hours that she saw me working and on the phone pacing back and forth trying to get things done. This is the reason why, and hopefully it'll make her laugh. Uh, we'll see.
We'll see. Time will tell, but I have a feeling it's a good bet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I know that you kind of already talked about networking, right? And building those relationships are really the important part here. And I think that's phenomenal advice. But I'm curious about mentoring. Like how important is mentoring in the industry? And do you have any mentors that you've had throughout the years, or do you have anyone that you yourself mentor?
I I know that some people do kind of have mentors. I feel like, just from my experience, I can't speak for everybody, obviously, but I don't feel like mentors are necessarily a huge thing within entertainment. I feel like there's people that kind of may almost just naturally take that role with, and it's all kind of like an unspoken mentor. I feel like that's more of a common thing. Like when I very first started at Hurwitz, there was an editor named Gabby, um, who was the most brash, outspoken, like editor I've ever met. Most people disliked her. She's typical New Yorker. And my mom's side of the family is from Brooklyn. So I feel like I gravitated towards that. It's just something that I'm very used to. And I absolutely loved her. I got along with her. I think I was the only person that she would let work on her projects. I would hear her yell at people like, but I loved it because we had that kind of back and forth where I could tease her and she would tease me, whatever. But I think without even realizing it, she kind of became my mentor, and I didn't realize it until she would all of a sudden just say, "Hey, sit. I'm going to show you something," or "Hey, this is what you could have done better. This is how I would do it," or "This is what you can expect moving forward." So I feel like there's situations like that where people kind of just all of a sudden find themselves in a position where they maybe are your mentor or some form of somebody of guidance. And that's somebody I credit. Um, like I know my wife had somebody who she actually did call her mentor, and it was an old boss of hers. So I feel like if you want a mentor, I think that that's great and they could be a lot of help. I think you just kind of have to put the foot forward, maybe ask for it. There are definitely people in my life who I would consider a mentor without ever even having said it before to them. That just naturally, for whatever reason in our relationship, they just gave me all the information, and taught me these lessons that have kind of helped me in my career. Um, but as far as mentor, I actually did the Cal State Long Beach mentorship program. So
What?
they, yeah, a couple of years back, both of which who I still speak to. Um, so yeah, I'm open to doing it. I'm very much somebody who, if you want me to at least help, which I don't mind at all, just be somebody who wants to be helped. Like
Mm,
put the effort into asking questions, check in, like be proactive because I won't do that. And it probably sounds harsh, but a lot of us have extremely busy schedules. Um, so a lot of times I'm not thinking about it, but I am absolutely willing to help. And I will give my time, but I want people that want it. Because I'm not going to spend time talking to a brick wall. Like there's plenty of work that I can get done in that meantime.
yeah, no. I mean, I guess I wouldn't say harsh for sure, but I would say, realistic. I think that, whether that mentorship relationship is spelled out as I'm your mentor or you're my mentee or not, right? Like it's good to for students to be thinking about or recent alum to be thinking about, what it is like you got to show up to the table in a certain way. So
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
it's important because there's so many lessons that I mean, I understand this is a school thing, but there's certain things that at least in our industry that can't be taught in the classroom. It's being taught through mistakes that other people are making, and I think it helps for us to pass those mistakes on to other people so that they know, hey, don't do this when you get to this level. Um, and there's so much they can learn, but they have to want to learn.
For sure. No, great advice. Great advice. We like to ask this of folks in every industry, but I think that for your industry in particular, this might be a particularly salient, a particularly interesting question, which is, with the rise of AI, artificial intelligence, what are your feelings about that for this industry and for your position? Is AI a good thing, a useful thing? Is it, detrimental? Is it gonna take some jobs? Like, how do you see AI in the context of your industry and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a crazy thing because part of me will always I love technology and I love the advancements. So on a personal side, I think it's really interesting. Um, work related, I know because I'm also union. I'm in local 700, which is post production and a lot of editors and stuff. So I know that like our unions are fighting for the rights to make sure that AI is something that helps us, not takes our jobs away. And that goes for all guilds and unions within entertainment. I know with actors, like they're fighting for the right to not have a clone of themselves be digitally used without the permission or on a cheaper level. Um, I think it's really cool the capabilities that are coming out. I think it'll keep going forward. But recently, for the very first time, I was actually blown away by the capability of that AI has to create scenes from scratch
Mhm.
and essentially edit them. So I'm like, okay, now it's delving into my world that could actually push me aside. Um, and just kind of keeping an eye on it, I don't think we're far off from a point where I may not actually be needed. It could be a producer telling a prompt expert or somebody trained in that field to say, hey, I want this type of scene with this type of actor and I want this type of action. Um, so yeah, I think it's really cool, but it's starting to get scary for even me. Because I feel like with editors, we were kind of the last to say we're worried about it because a lot of these tools available actually help our jobs and make it easier, and make us do things a lot quicker. But now that they're creating images, that's when it could be kind of an issue for us. So it'll be interesting to see what the unions and studios come to an agreement on how to protect everybody.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and with I know that AI was definitely part of it, but I think that the entertainment industry in general, whether it was the writers, the actors, or there are a bunch of unions that are involved in the entertainment or take space and hold space in the entertainment industry. And the industry itself has kind of been in this moment of tumult um, from AI and from pay and many other things.
Yeah.
How much does that impact you and your position and the work that you're doing? And how has that all impacted you?
It, I mean, thank goodness it wasn't as bad for me only that it could have been. I know there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people who lost jobs, who still can't get jobs, who were furloughed or had to strike because of all of that stuff happening. My particular sector, because I work in theatrical marketing for Warner Brothers, we were working on projects that are essentially already finished. So we didn't have to worry about, oh, our show's shut down
Mm.
or, oh, our gig's not coming up. The stuff we were working on could continue because they were already finished. So it was kind of outside the boundary of that whole situation. If things were going on the way that they were for about another month, then it would have affected me for that particular job. Then it would get to a point where we run out of work. And then what would have been done, we're not really sure because none of us had experienced something like that before. But at that point, the union would kind of have to step in and kind of help us and just see what to do. On Martin's side, um, everything came to a complete halt because the Actors Guild went on strike. So I mean, Bad Boys 4 stopped production for the entire time. I mean, he couldn't do certain projects because of a reunion. So we just had a long extended break on that end. But yeah, it was really really close to getting bad for me. Um, Even my wife, she couldn't work on a couple of projects because at the time I think she was on Dancing with the Stars, and obviously it's a lot of people in the Actors Union or the Actors Guild, so they all, I think they were, in fact, they were one day away from filming, and they were told most of the actors can't even attend the first taping, and I think it was like within hours of that being filmed the Actors Guild had settled theirs. So the show actually did go on.
Wow.
Uh, but for a lot of us, it was that close. But I know a lot of people who lost their jobs. Some had to sell their homes and move back to other states to be with family. A lot of people who went through their savings and will take years to recover. It's still really really bad. Um, I'm thankful that I'm not a part of that particular group.
Yeah. But definitely empathy for those that are. So, if what would be for someone who's interested, for a student now who's interested in just starting, right? Like not someone who's been in for a while, but someone who's just looking to dip their toes in now. What's the best piece of advice you could give to someone?
There's a couple things I would say. First is uh, be open to. I find a lot of people say that, especially with particularly within entertainment, be open to um, taking gigs that you may not have thought you would initially want to do. For example, the sector that I work in, I had never even heard of before starting, because I think a lot of us want to be the directors, the producers, the writers. I think a lot of people don't realize that that is about 2% of the entertainment industry, and people who make it to the level of success is about another 0.2%. So I think if you go in knowing that, in fact, for example, if you watch the credits at the end of the movie, there's usually about 12 minutes worth of names scrolling. Those are all jobs that you could potentially have. So I think if you just want to work in entertainment, be open to learning a different sector that you thought or you didn't think of. I mean, because there's marketing, there's areas in music, there's VFX, there's so many different areas. There's props. Um, so be open to checking those out if the initial directing job that you want is not available, because you can't really just go out and apply to be a director.
No.
But if you're like me, who like I wanted to make sure that I could still pay my rent, so I got a job that could help me pay my bills, and I ended up loving. Like it worked out that way. So I would say be open to other areas. Um, I would say once you're in a job, take Jack Tucker's advice. And he told me when in fact, when I got my first job, I went to him and he was so gracious and had lunch with me. And I asked him, I was like, well, what do I do? Because I don't know. I don't even know what I'm getting myself into. He said, just keep your eyes open and keep your mouth shut. He's like, don't he's like, don't give advice, don't just listen and absorb everything. And I did that, and I feel like that's a really important thing, because a lot of, especially I feel like, and I can say this because I went through it coming from film school, we get this little chip on our shoulder and we think, oh, we know what to do and all. You don't know a single thing. I can tell you that, don't know anything, because yeah, just listen and learn. That's a huge thing. I would say another thing is make sure to have a hobby. Like that's a big thing with me doing jujitsu for the last 11 years now. You need an outlet that you can step away from work to do, to get your mind off. Like just have some type of release, whether it be painting or just going on a walk, running, anything. Just do something besides work, because I feel like, and I find myself doing this, you get caught in this cycle of just work, 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 work. And then the next thing you know, it's the end of the week. And what'd you do except work? Nothing. And in 50 years, do you want to look back and say, oh, well, I had X amount of weekends to myself to do something fun, when you could have actually found time in between your 9 to 5 to do other things? Um, and just fill your time with some fun. Like go see a family member or hang out with friends. Like do something besides work, even though that's what you're most likely in school to go do.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great advice. Andrew, I just want to say thank you so much for your time and for all your wisdom, and for sharing about what you do, because I think it's really exciting, and I think that there's a lot here that folks can, you know, dig their teeth into and learn from, and some good nuggets of advice to take forward. So I want to say thank you so much for that.
Of course, thank you for reaching out.
And for all of you who have tuned in today, I also want to say thank you so much. And remind you to that this is being recorded. This is recorded, so you will be able to view this on our website. Again, that's www.csulb.edu/alumni. and you'll be able to watch this again. But you can also, check us out and see what else we have going on. We have plenty of great content for you guys. And you can also follow us at CSULB Alumni on all the different social media platforms. So feel free to reach out to us with any questions, or if you want to get involved, much like Andrew here. And yeah, Andrew, if folks wanted to, get in touch with you, maybe ask you a question or just continue the conversation, how might they get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can feel free to email my personal email, which is my full name. It's Andrew Dorian Jackson at yahoo.com. That's AndrewDorianJackson at yahoo.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. And again, thank you all so much. And until next time, we'll see you again.
All right, bye.
Bye.